Now, there's some huge positives when it comes to the national beef herd in Zimbabwe. It's over 5.5 million beasts, and in fact, that's gone up by a small percentage recently. And it looks like the cattle market or the cattle farmers are actually going through, I won't call it a boom, but definitely some sort of growth period in Zimbabwe, as are the dairy farmers. But however, cattle farmers in Bulawayo are calling for authorities to intervene in the selling of cattle, as they believe that abattoirs and middlemen are ripping them off. Jairus Mahlangu, a cattle farmer, told ZTM Prime that the livestock market is no longer competitive as before, as markets have become fragmented.
We are hoping the veterinary department services will look up to disease control and make sure they open our central market, which is Bulawayo Showgrounds Market, which was once closed 6 years back, if not mistaken, but it's over 6 years, can be 6 years and over 6 years back. This was our key market for all cattle breeders, beef marketers. We once had some small butcheries were coming to compete here with the big abattoir guys, like you can mention. If you have a one-man bid, which is more than 3, 4, 10 times bidders, unlike having only abattoirs who only buys and maybe say this is a price.
Speaking to another farmer, he says that for the livestock industry to grow, authorities should centralize the market.
For the economy to grow, the agriculture to grow, the farmer must have money. They must be able to sell their animals in the best possible market. And the best possible market is a centralized system. That's why you don't sell vegetables out there. They bring it to the market where there are people to buy in numbers. The abattoirs are afraid of competition. They are afraid that they are going to compete with the butcher. Now the butcher is going to the abattoir. The person that needs one animal is going to the abattoir. If you want to have a wedding, you go to the abattoir. So all we're asking is, let this place be opened. Then the keki industry in this country is going to be revived, especially in Matabeleland.
Now, the Zimbabwe government says that there will be no cattle sales at the Bulawayo Agricultural Society BAS pens located within the Zimbabwe International Trade Fairs at ITF showgrounds. The move is part of a deliberate effort by the government to mitigate the spread of deadly killer diseases such as foot and mouth and January disease. Cattle sales in Bulawayo were suspended as far back as 2015 after foot and mouth was detected in 3 beasts that were being sold at the showgrounds. Before the suspension of cattle sales in Bulawayo, between 400 and 500 cattle were being sold per week. Now, I personally spoke to the farmers, and the issue is quite simple, okay? Now, we did find foot and mouth disease back in 2015, accepted, and of course, the Department of Veterinary Services did jump in immediately to stop the transportation of cattle from various areas, particularly around Bulawayo. So if you look at Bulawayo, it's literally surrounded by areas which are what we call red zones, in which cattle cannot be transported across those borders and get into the city. Now, what would happen before, of course, is that farmers would bring their cows to the cattle pens. They would then go on auction, and they would then be sold. If a farmer didn't like the price, he said he didn't want it, and he took his cow back. If he liked the price, he took the money and he walked away. Who came to those pens? Well, ordinary citizens like you and me came and bought mombes there. Abattoirs came there, butcheries came there. So in fact, it was like a marketplace for buying cattle or buying meat in particular. So what happened? Well, as soon as the provinces, if I can put it, around Bulawayo got shut off or got into red zones, now to get the cattle from those areas, it meant that abattoirs were really the major ones that could go there, or middlemen could go there with their trucks and buy the mombes individually, get them cleared, obviously, of diseases and so forth, and then transported into their abattoirs and so on. Here comes the problem, according to the farmers. Well, The abattoirs would go out into the various areas. They would buy the cattle. They would then bring them back. They would then slaughter them. Then they would say to the farmer, this is how much the cattle is worth. Okay, the farmer would say, but you're only giving me $50 as an example, when the cow's worth $400. And the guy would say, well, yeah, but don't forget there's transportation costs. It's about 3 cents per kilometer, 3 US per kilometer, to pick up the cattle, bring it back to the abattoir, slaughter it. Now, the farmer, of course, is kind of stuck. Why? Well, because the cow is already slaughtered. It's already ready for selling. It's already being slaughtered by the abattoir. They can't say, please give me back my cow. So as a result, they feel quite strongly that they're putting a lot of effort, a lot of money into raising cattle, depending on, it doesn't matter what breed it may be and for what source. It could be dairy, it could be for beef, but when it now comes to the selling of that to, if I can say, recoup their financial expenses, this is where they're crying foul. And they're saying, really, at the end of the day, it appears that the abattoirs and the middlemen are the ones who are making money in the beef industry and not the people who should be, which is the farmers. Well, let me know, all your thoughts, because I'm sure there's lots of beef farmers out there. You have a couple of cows at home, and even cows in the rural areas. I'm sure most of us have some sort of cow sitting somewhere in Zimbabwe. The question is, do you believe that this is true? Do you believe that what the farmers are saying is correct, and that we could have better prices of cattle if we open up the pens, particularly in Bulawayo, whereby 450 to 500 cows were sold a day? Now, of course, it all depends on what the abattoir needs, where they go. So as a result, the farmer seems to be the one on the other end of the boot, so to speak. They're not the ones who are gaining. And at the end of the day, farming is about the farmer. The downstream activity should just be sort of adding value to the beef, not really taking value from the beef and adding value to the pockets of the abattoirs and middlemen. This is exactly what the farmers around the Bulawayo area are believing and are saying. Well, anyway, let us know your thoughts on this story and everything else on Morning Rush, please, via our social media platforms. At Facebook, it's Zim Papers TV Network, and of course, Twitter at ZTM Prime. Now, just as an aside, later on today, 2 p.m. on The Mint, we should be having an exclusive interview with the Minister of Tourism and Environment, Honorable Mangaliso Ndlovu. He should be coming into the studio to chat about all things to do with tourism and the environment. An interesting discussion I'm looking forward to having later. 2 p.m., The Mint, every day here on ZTM Prime, with the exception of Wednesdays when we have Beat the Market, where we now look more deeply into specific counters on the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange and any kind of equity or market stories that are happening in the country on that day.